What if the smiles you trust hide a different motive? Imagine those closest to you, the ones you confide in, secretly harboring dislike. It's a chilling possibility, yet the truth often finds a way to reveal itself. We're not talking about shouting matches or obvious insults. Instead, picture little things. A joke that stings a bit too much, a constant feeling of being brushed aside, or a silence that feels heavier than words. These small signals could be breadcrumbs leading to a hidden truth. Stay tuned as we gently uncover those subtle signs and also help you listen to the quiet warnings your relationships might be sending. Unspoken jealousy. Sometimes the people closest to you carry a quiet storm inside them. They smile with you, laugh beside you, and say all the right things. But deep in their heart, there's a feeling they never speak out loud. Jealousy. It's not the loud, obvious kind. Soft. Hidden. But it's there. They may love you, but something about your life, your courage, your kindness, your growth makes them uncomfortable. You remind them of the dreams they gave up, the chances they didn't take, the person they once hoped to become. And instead of cheering for you, they start to resent you. You don't even have to be rich or famous. You might just be happy, or hopeful, or healing from something they're still hurting from. You might be at peace with who you are, and that alone can stir something bitter in someone who is not. They won't say it out loud. They might not even fully understand it themselves. But it comes out in subtle ways. They roll their eyes when you share good news. They change the subject when the spotlight shines on you. They give you a hug, but it feels cold, forced, hollow. They tell you you've changed, but what they mean is you've grown past them. They joke about your success, but the words carry weight. You begin to notice how they're never truly happy for you, how they only seem warm when you're struggling, how their support disappears when you start to rise. It's a confusing kind of hurt, because this is someone who knows your heart, someone you thought would clap the loudest when your time came. But instead, they sit in the shadows, hoping you'll shrink again, so they don't have to feel small next to your light. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong by becoming more of yourself. You're not responsible for the bitterness they haven't healed. But it still hurts, because we all want to believe that true love, in any form, can rise above envy. The truth is, it can. But only if the person chooses healing over hiding. Only if they confront their pain instead of projecting it onto you. Until then, you may have to love them from a distance. Not out of anger, but out of protection. For your peace. For your heart. Because no matter how deeply you care, you can't carry the weight of someone else's silent war with themselves. You deserve people who don't feel smaller when you shine. You deserve friends and family who rise with you, not against you. Jealousy in disguise is one of the most painful forms of hidden hate. But recognizing it is the first step to setting your heart free. If you have watched to this very point, stay tuned, there's more. The backhanded compliment. There is something strange about a compliment that sets off as sweet but ends with a bitter experience. Just like that saying goes, a wolf in sheep's clothing. It comes dressed up as something nice, something you should feel good about, but then it leaves you with a sting. You can't quite put your finger on it, all you are left with is a mixed feeling. Was that a compliment that made you feel just a little bit less, a little bit off balance? That's the power of a backhanded compliment. It's like a rose with hidden thorns. Beautiful on the surface, but it leaves a scratch when you reach out to hold it. It's not the big, obvious insults that get to us sometimes. It's these little comments here and there. They slide under the radar of our defenses. They're like tiny drops of poison, and over time, they can really start to affect how we feel about ourselves and the people who say them. The person giving the backhanded compliment? They might not even realize they're doing it, or maybe they do deep down, but they mask it with a smile and a seemingly innocent tone. It's this very ambiguity that makes it so unsettling. You can't quite call them out because, hey, they did say something nice, sort of. It often comes from a place of insecurity, you know? Maybe they feel a little threatened by your confidence or your achievements. Instead of dealing with those feelings in a healthy way, they try to bring you down a notch just a little bit so they feel a bit better about themselves. It's a twisted way of trying to level the playing field, but it ends up hurting the other person. When compliments like this come from people who we don't really share a close bond with, we simply shake it off, but it takes a different effect if these are the people whose opinions we often value the most. So when they slip in these little hypocritical compliments, they can really sting. It makes you question things. Were they really happy for me? Do they actually like me? Or are they secretly judging me all the time? It creates this little seed of doubt in your mind, and that seed can grow into a whole garden of unease if it's not addressed. The constant sting of backhanded compliments can wear you down. It makes you second-guess yourself. You start to wonder if you're good enough, if your achievements are really worth celebrating, or if people are just being polite to your face. It erodes your self-esteem in tiny, almost imperceptible ways. So, what do you do when you hear one of these veiled insults? It's tricky. Sometimes, the best thing is to simply acknowledge the compliment part and ignore the insult. Don't give it the power to sink in. Other times, if it's a pattern with someone you're close to, it might be worth gently addressing it. This opens the door for a conversation, although it can be a tough one. Ultimately, paying attention to these subtle stings is important. They might be little clues that something isn't quite right in the relationship. It doesn't necessarily mean the person hates you, but it could indicate some underlying insecurity, jealousy, or even a lack of genuine support. Learning to recognize these backhanded compliments is a way of protecting your own heart and understanding the true nature of the connections around you. It's about listening to the whispers beneath the surface of the seemingly nice words. Subtle sabotage. It's like navigating a path where someone keeps placing tiny pebbles in your way. Individually, they might seem insignificant, easy to brush aside. But over time, these little obstacles can trip you up, slow you down, and leave you wondering why your journey feels so much harder than it should. Imagine you're excited about a new hobby, maybe painting. You share your enthusiasm with a close friend. They seem supportive, even interested. But then, every time you plan to paint, something happens. They forget to tell you about the art supply store closing early. Or they borrow your favorite brush and return it slightly damaged. Or they distract you with endless calls and texts when you finally find some quiet time to create. Each incident alone is minor, easily explained away. But a pattern emerges, its subtle, recurrent act that consistently disrupts your flow, dampens your passion. It's not the grand, dramatic betrayals that we often brace ourselves for. It's these little stings from the words that have been said. They're hard to pinpoint, hard to confront because, on the surface, there's no clear malicious intent. It could always be a coincidence, a simple oversight, a moment of forgetfulness. But your gut feeling tells you otherwise. It feels like something is consistently working against your happiness or progress in small, almost insignificant ways. Think about your career. You're working hard on a project, feeling good about your contributions. A colleague you thought was supportive offers to help by sending out an important email on your behalf. But they accidentally leave off a key recipient, delaying your progress. Or they offer feedback on your presentation that, while seemingly constructive, subtly undermines your confidence before you deliver it. Again, each instance can be rationalized. Mistakes happen. People have different opinions. But when these mistakes and opinions consistently seem to hinder your advancement, it starts to feel like more than just a mistake. This subtle sabotage often stems from a place of insecurity or perhaps even unconscious jealousy. The person might not even fully realize they're doing it. Maybe your success or happiness triggers something within them, and these little acts of interference are their way of subtly leveling the playing field, making themselves feel a little better in comparison. It's a quiet, often unspoken struggle playing out in the background of your interactions. It can leave you feeling confused and frustrated. You might start to doubt yourself. Are you being paranoid? Are you reading too much into things? Because the acts themselves are so small, so easily dismissed, you might hesitate to voice your concerns. You don't want to seem petty or accusatory, but the persistent feeling of being subtly held back can take a toll on your spirit. The real challenge lies in recognizing the pattern. It's about tuning into those gut feelings, those moments of unease that arise after certain interactions. It's about connecting the dots between seemingly isolated incidents and seeing the underlying trend. What do you do when you recognize this subtle sabotage? It's a delicate situation. Directly accusing someone of intentionally undermining you can be met with denial and defensiveness. Sometimes the best approach is to create distance, to become more self-reliant in areas where you've noticed this pattern. If it's a work situation, double-check everything yourself. If it's a personal relationship, be mindful of the information you share and the tasks you delegate. In some cases, a gentle, non-confrontational conversation might be possible. You could express how certain repeated incidents have made you feel, focusing on your experience rather than making direct accusations. For example, instead of saying, "You keep messing up my plans," you could say, "I've noticed that whenever we plan to do this way, something seems to come up and it's been a little frustrating for me." Ultimately, recognizing subtle sabotage is about trusting your intuition. It's about acknowledging those nagging feelings that something isn't quite right, even when there's no obvious evidence of malice. It's a reminder that sometimes, the greatest obstacles we face come not in the form of grand confrontations, but in the quiet accumulation of small, hindering actions. By becoming aware of these subtle signs, you can better protect your own journey and navigate your relationships with greater clarity and self-awareness. Withholding of enthusiasm. It's like holding out a bright, shiny gift, something that makes your heart feel light and full, only to have it received with a polite, almost indifferent nod. It's the absence of that shared spark, that mirroring of joy that makes celebrations truly meaningful. And that lack of genuine excitement can feel like a subtle chill, creating a little gap where warmth and connection should be. Think about a time you had wonderful news. Maybe you finally landed that job you've been working towards, or you finished a challenging project, or even something small but significant to you, like mastering a new recipe. You rush to share your joy with someone close, your voice filled with excitement. You anticipate their happy reaction, the shared high five, the words of genuine congratulations. But what you get instead is a subdued, "Oh, that's nice," or a quick, "Good for you," before they move on to the next topic. It's not negative, not critical, but it lacks that vital ingredient, real, heartfelt enthusiasm. It's like playing music in an empty room. The notes are there, the melody is complete, but the resonance, the echo of shared emotion is missing. And that absence can be surprisingly disheartening. It makes you wonder if your joy is somehow less valid, less important in their eyes. This withholding of enthusiasm isn't about them being actively unhappy for you. It's more about a lack of genuine investment in your happiness. It could stem from various reasons. Maybe they are dealing with their own struggles and find it hard to fully share in someone else's joy. Perhaps they have a personality that tends towards a more reserved expression of emotions. Or more subtly, it could hint at a hidden undercurrent of something else, maybe a touch of envy, or a feeling of being somehow overshadowed by your success. But regardless of the reason behind it, the impact on you can be significant. It can make you feel like you're celebrating alone, even when you're in the same room as someone you care about. It can make you hesitant to share future good news, fearing that same lukewarm reception. The joy you felt starts to dim a little, tainted by the lack of shared enthusiasm. Its impact is intense when it comes from those closest to us. Family, close friends, partners. These are the people whose positive reactions we often crave the most. Their genuine happiness for us feels like a validation, a confirmation that our achievements are truly worth celebrating. When that validation is missing, it can create a subtle but persistent sense of disconnection. You might start to feel like you're living on slightly different emotional planes, your highs not quite reaching them. Over time, this can lead to a subtle distancing in the relationship. You might start sharing less, holding back your excitement because you anticipate that muted response. It's a way of protecting yourself from that little sting of disappointment. But in doing so, you also lose out on the opportunity for genuine connection and shared joy, which are the very things that strengthen bonds between people. What can you do when you notice this pattern? It's a delicate dance. You can't force someone to be enthusiastic, and demanding a more effusive reaction can feel awkward and unnatural. However, you can gently express how their reaction made you feel. You could say something like, "It would have meant a lot to me to share my excitement with you, and I felt a little let down by the reaction." This opens a space for them to reflect on their response, although it doesn't guarantee a change. Ultimately, recognizing the withholding of enthusiasm is about paying attention to the emotional atmosphere of your interactions. It's about noticing those moments when your joy doesn't quite land, when your good news is met with a quiet stillness instead of a vibrant echo. It's a subtle sign that something might be amiss in the emotional connection, and it's worth paying attention to. While it doesn't necessarily mean the person dislikes you, it does suggest a lack of shared emotional resonance, which can create a subtle but significant distance in any close relationship. Your joys are valid, and you deserve to have them met with genuine warmth and enthusiasm by the people you care about. They always say an unkind humor. It's like being in a room where everyone else is laughing, but the joke is always, somehow, on you. It's wrapped up in smiles and lighthearted tones, disguised as playful teasing, but underneath it all, this hurt consistently beneath all the jokes, leaving you feeling just a little bit smaller each time. Think about those moments when you're with a group of people you care about and someone makes a joke. Everyone chuckles, but you realize the punchline hinges on something you're sensitive about, maybe a past mistake, a physical trait you're self-conscious of, or a dream you haven't yet achieved. It's brushed off as just a bit of fun. "Can't you take a joke?" they might say, but the effect lingers long after the laughter fades. It's not the occasional clumsy joke that lands wrong. This is a pattern, a recurring theme where your vulnerabilities become the go-to source of amusement. It might be disguised as them keeping it real, or just teasing, but the consistency and the pointed nature of the humor start to feel less like playful banter and more like subtle digs. It can be incredibly confusing because humor is often seen as a way to bond and connect. When someone you care about uses it to consistently poke at your insecurities, it creates a strange feeling. You want to laugh along to be a good sport, but the joke lands too close to home. It chips away at your confidence in small, insignificant ways. The insidious thing about this kind of humor is that it's often difficult to call out. If you express that it bothers you, you risk being labeled as overly sensitive or lacking a sense of humor. The person making the jokes can easily deflect by saying they were just kidding, that you're taking things too seriously. This leaves you feeling even more isolated, as if your feelings are invalid. But deep down, you know the difference between good-natured teasing among friends and humor that consistently targets your weak spots. Good teasing is usually reciprocal, lighthearted, and doesn't leave anyone feeling genuinely hurt or belittled. Unkind humor, on the other hand, has a clear target, and that target is often you. Why do people engage in this kind of humor? It can stem from various underlying issues. Sometimes, it's a way for someone to subtly assert dominance or feel superior by putting you down, even in a seemingly lighthearted way. It could be a manifestation of their own insecurities, where making you the butt of the joke momentarily lifts their own spirits. Or, in some cases, it might be a misguided attempt at connection, a clumsy way of trying to relate by focusing on perceived flaws. But whatever the reason, the impact on the recipient can be significant. Constantly being the subject of unkind jokes can affect your self-esteem, make you feel self-conscious, and create a sense of unease in the relationship. You might start to dread social situations with this person, always on guard for the next disguised jokes. It can also make you question the authenticity of the relationship. If someone truly cares about you, why would they consistently choose to make jokes at your expense? It creates a subtle but persistent feeling of being unrespected, of not being fully valued for who you are. What can you do if you find yourself in this situation? It's important to acknowledge your feelings. You have a right to feel hurt or uncomfortable by humor that consistently targets your weakness. Sometimes, a direct but calm conversation is necessary. You could say something like, "I know you're often joking, but when the humor consistently focuses on my insecurities, it doesn't feel very good to me." This allows you to express your feelings without being accusatory. If the behavior persists, despite you expressing your discomfort, it might be a sign that this person isn't as attuned to your feelings as you might have hoped. It might be necessary to create some distance or reevaluate the nature of the relationship. Ultimately, humor should be a source of joy and connection, not a tool for subtle belittlement. Paying attention to the downsides of unkind humor in your relationships is a way of protecting your emotional well-being and ensuring that the laughter you share is genuinely inclusive and doesn't come at the cost of your self-respect. You deserve to be in relationships where humor lifts you up, not brings you down, even if it's wrapped in a smile and a seemingly harmless punchline. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and follow us for more.